Ladies and gentlemen, hi and welcome to the fourth episode of the Motivated Podcast, the podcast where I interview and speak with people that motivate me in different areas of life, whether it's business, personal, um, transformational, health wise. The people I bring on the show, I bring on to share their experience with you guys, the listeners, and just pick their brain to see what we can extract from people that have achieved a lot and that I feel that people have a lot to learn from. Today's guest is someone who is very close to me, business wise and personally, but that is not why she's on this show. Just to name a few things so you guys really see the true potential of this show here and why you should be listening all the way to the end. Adele has done quite a lot in her life. Among other things, she started her first business when she was just 17 years old, and that was a successful business, I may add. I'll ask her a bit more about that later on in the show. She has an MBA in finance. She's a certified nutritionist. She's lived and traveled all over the world. She has started and created loads of successful businesses, one being Entree, which is one of the best sushi restaurants in south of Sweden. She has led global teams of hundreds of people, and she has so much experience from personal development material and as a presenter of the material to her own teams. I've now worked very closely with Adele for about 6-7 months, and to be honest, it only gets better. And I knew I did have high expectations going into this collaboration because of all the things she's done previously, and that of course sets the bar very high. And what tends to happen in those instances is that people may not reach all the way. Even though they do a great job, you're still disappointed because you thought it would be so much better. But I can honestly say that she has surpassed that by miles. And it's just going to get better in the future. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what this conversation, what we can find through this conversation, and what you guys can take with you in the future. So I'm going to let Adele jump in on a segment that I like to call From Start to Finish, where she tells a bit more about where she came from, her background, and where she is today, what she's focusing on. And without further ado, I would like to invite you into the podcast here, Adele.
Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Well, thank you for the great introduction. And thank you for having me on this podcast. I've enjoyed your former episodes, and I'm very honored to be on one of them. So, a bit about my background. Born in Lebanon and moved to Sweden when I was 1 year old. Even when I was small, I remember I always knew that I wanted to do something different. Back then, I didn't know that that was entrepreneurship and what that meant. Coming from a family where education is the most important thing in life, I thought, okay, just to get my parents satisfied, I get myself an MBA with entrepreneurship and business. So that's what I did, knowing that I wanted to start my own companies. Had started that before my universal degree. Um, got that finished, moved to America, got my nutrition certificate as well. And after that, moved back to Sweden, and just like you said, lived all over Europe. Worked in the corporate world for a while in leading positions in different companies, but I just got to realize that that wasn't my thing. Having a boss and having someone that decides over my time, when to come, when to go, when to be hungry for lunch, when to go for vacation, I thought, no, I have to have my own businesses. Said and done, I quit my job and opened up, just like I said, one of my restaurants. And then I had a staffing firm and some other businesses going on the side. But after a while, I came to another conclusion where I realized that, work should be something more than just money. Work should be something more than just earning money and going day in, day out, even if it's your own business. And I wasn't even owning my time anymore, because having a restaurant and running all of your own businesses still takes so much time. So if you don't do what you love and if you don't do your passion, it's still going to be a job, even if it's your own businesses. So I realized that, and I knew that I wanted to work more with people I knew that I wanted to work more global, so I got into the network marketing industry, where I got in contact with personal development and got in contact with people, and found out that my passion has always been to work with people, help people, inspire people, and then inspire people to follow their dreams and their goals. And so by working on myself and helping myself and leading myself, I got to a point where I can actually help others and lead others. And today, just like you mentioned, we're in this global capital family. We're working in different segments in the event company, where we have a lot of personal development, a lot of helping people, but also in the finance and the business with the property. So that's where we're at today. And honestly, I'm so excited for what this future is bringing for us, for me, and for the people that's around me. So back to you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I just have so many things I want to ask you there. First off, I think it's so interesting that you said that it's very important to do what you love and to work with what you love. But sometimes, because I know you, so I know that you love cooking, you love making food you just love sharing and all of that. So you would think running your own restaurant is exactly what you should be working with, but it wasn't passive. And as you so clearly stated, you don't like when people put times on when you have to do things. So this was a perfect instance where doing what you love might not be the perfect thing for you to work with, because then at the end of the day you might not love to do it anymore. Am I right there?
You're 100% right. I mean, sometimes I miss the restaurant industry, the social part of it. And like you said, my passion is food. But, there's something more important than money, and there's something more important than maybe food and the social part, and that is time.
Mm.
There was 3 years passed by where the only 2 days in the year that I was free was Christmas and midsummer in Sweden. Those were the
Wow.
only days we closed the restaurant. And I missed all of my sister's birthdays, I missed engagement parties, and I missed graduation parties. I didn't go on vacation. It destroyed my relationship. So you
Mm.
come to a point where you have to look at yourself, where you're at, and what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, of course. And I know because my dad actually ran a restaurant for 20 years, so I know what time consuming business that can be. So I think you made the exact right decision in that instance there. So I would also be a bit interested to hear about your first business adventure, because it was at such an early age, and where most people don't even think about anything else but going to the club with their friends. Could you tell us a bit more? What type of business did you start at the age of 17? Was it a lemonade stand, or what type of business was that?
Well, actually not. To be honest, I think even before that, I had some, trading back and forth with money and doing business, everything from selling cookies. And, I've never been the clubbing type. That actually came in a later stage in my life. By the time I was 17, I don't even think I've been to a club, a disco, or a party, not even at school, because I was so focused on sports. I was doing sports. But the first one was a sun studio, which was popping up every here and now. And so I was studying at the same time, and I was studying and running that sun studio, which was very good. Yeah, I can sit there in my desk and study and accept the customers coming in. So
Yeah,
that was the first thing.
that sounds passive and perfect for
Yeah.
you at that stage.
Yes,
But
it was.
so that's so cool. And the MBA in finance, at what stage did you pursue that? Because you'd think if you start out your entrepreneurial journey that you would perhaps go on to open up maybe another tanning salon or something. What pushed you towards the educational path after that?
Well, like I said in the beginning, my parents is all about studies, and it came to a point where they told me that you're not going to get any money if you don't
Mm,
get your degree. Do whatever you want, just make sure you get a degree, because that's what's going to make you fall back. And I actually
mm,
do agree with them in some point, because the network, and everything that you learn when you do your MBA is very good. But if you don't practice it, if you don't put the theory into practice, it's still just a piece of paper with a title. What pushed my parents, and I'm thankful for that. But I will say that personal experience and the practical things are so much more important.
yeah, but I agree with you. And of course, when people like you and I sort of talk not against getting an education, we're not talking about not getting smarter, not educating yourself in different areas. But what I feel is that most people, they go into an educational sort of path where you ask them what they want to become, and they say, "No, I don't know what I want to become, but with this education, I have so many alternatives." And I'm like, "Well, now you're 22, you're 21. You shouldn't only know what you want to do. You should have by now figured out one thing you want to master, one thing you want to become the best at." So if someone tells me you should go this education because then you have so many alternatives, that only tells me, oh, so I get good at a lot of things, but I don't become great at one thing. And that's what you need to have at this stage of life, I think.
Well, definitely. And that's why, knowing that I want to be an entrepreneur, for me, it was perfect when I saw that there was this field of entrepreneurship and business.
Mm,
Entrepreneurship is very diffuse, but of course, just like you say, if you don't know where you're going nowhere.
mm,
So obviously that's how it is. And yes, that's just true. And if you can go study your whole life, if you don't apply it, doesn't
mm.
matter. You can go to seminars your whole life. If it doesn't apply it in real life, it doesn't matter. And this is
Okay.
also the fact here, a doctor is not a doctor if you didn't go your AP.
Mm.
So, of course.
Exactly, that's so true. You have to have specialized knowledge, and sometimes you can get a more valuable education done in 3 months because of the subject you're trying to master is so narrow, instead of going 5 years and then learning a bit about this, a bit about that. So I completely agree with you there. But what I've also noticed, hanging around with you a lot, working with you a lot, is that you're basically a personal development dictionary. You throw out these perfect sort of slogans or mantras in the perfect sort of situations. So that sort of brings me as a perfect segue into the next subject that I would like to talk about, and that is what I like to call the habit breakdown. So every time I get a new guest on the podcast, I always ask them 3 questions about how they run their day and how they structure their lives. So are you ready for that?
Yes, of course.
Perfect. So the first question is, how do you start your day?
Well, Mark, you know the answer to this question.
I do.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I was one of those people that always used to say, personal development is, crap, or reading books is, it's not for me. I can't read book. I can't sit still. But the moment I realized that I was the one, talking crap, the moment I started with personal development is actually the moment where I started to become a better person. So my day, I start at 6 o'clock every morning. The first thing I do is actually put on some coffee, take my book, and if it's nice weather, I go out and I read for at least 30 minutes. After that, I have some breakfast, then go to the gym. So by the time it's 9 o'clock in the morning, I've done my personal development and my workout, so I can start my day. And if there's time, I start to do my to-do list. So this is how I start my day.
That's so cool. I start my day similar, as you know, so we're both on the same page there. And as we spoke about the other day, I feel that if I can choose between working with a person that is completely 100% in state, so to say, when he starts working or she starts working, I would rather that he or she works 5 hours being completely in state, meaning that they did their reading in the morning, they did their meditation, their training. I'd rather have 5 hours of that than I would 9 hours of someone waking up half an hour before they're going to start working, and just sitting there, not even in the right state of mind before they start doing what they're trying to do. So I love that, the way you start your day there. So the following question is naturally, how do you keep focus once you've started your day? Because during the day, we all know distractions come up. People want your time. You need to do this and that. How do you keep focus during the day?
And that's a very good question. And a lot of people think that the people that are entrepreneurs or run their own businesses doesn't get distracted or don't have, we also have Facebook. We also have unplanned things happen to us. But, it's like everyone would answer this question. And this is actually true. Time management, every morning or every weekend, Sundays, I look at my coming week and say, okay, what do I want to achieve this week? What kind of results do I want from this week? And also every morning, what kind of results do I want this day? And I think that more than 3 big things is very impossible to do if you're going to do them good and focus on them. So I don't think of what do I need to do. I think of what kind of results do I want to have? And then I do a to-do list based on that, of course, and in the to-do list, there can also be laundry. But then I
Mm,
prioritize, because I prioritize after the results I want to have. So if my results this week would be get as many people to the event as possible, then laundry would be in the bottom.
Mm.
But if the result this week would be tidy my home and get back on track after being away for a while, then maybe my laundry would be somewhere further up the top.
It's
So
about prioritizing, I guess.
prioritizing about what kind of results you want.
I think you also touched bases on something that we call conscious choice, where you're actually aware of what you're trying to do that day. So you're not
Yes.
just not just waking up and, oh yeah, today I have it to do, so I do whatever's being put on my table. You're asking, what type of result do I want at the end of the day, and then you create your to-do list after that. And I
Yeah,
also
well, I always say either you run the day or the day runs you, right?
yeah, so true, so true. I think also you touched base on chunking, which basically means that you try to, if you have an errand you have to run in terms of laundry, and you have to do your shopping, you have to post a mail, and you have to do a meeting, you chunk all of that in once. And then maybe you have to answer emails, so you chunk all of that in once. So you're most time efficient by the way of chunking. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Absolutely, Mark, and you need to know this. You need to be aware of this in order to do it, because you're gonna have emails coming in all the time. But if you know that you're gonna answer the emails by 4 o'clock, then you don't get bothered by the emails coming in from 10 to 4. But if you don't know this, then you will get stressed from every single email coming in.
And I think if I can add there, one thing that I've learned is to actually accept that sometimes you're not going to answer straight away. Like yesterday I had, because we work globally, we have investors from Hong Kong, from the US, Australia. So we get emails, phone calls, even when we're sleeping. And being the hungry, motivated people we are, I want to sit down and I want to answer that email straight away. If you see me on my way to bed with the pajamas on and the toothbrush in my mouth, I'm still sitting there answering emails. But I've learned, okay, whoa, there's always going to be more emails. There's always going to be more things to do. So I'm going to chunk these and do them more efficiently at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. And we sometimes I just scan them and see, are there more important emails? Then I can just tell them, I'm busy right now, or I'll get back to you later. And then at least you've answered.
Exactly.
But yes, I agree.
Good point. Good point. So that brings me on to the third question, and that is, how do you end your day?
Well, I basically end my day almost the same way as I start my day. I don't work out in the evening, but I do read in the evening. And in the evening, in the morning, I always have one book that I'm one book after another. In the evening, I'm trying to see, okay, how was this day? What kind of state of mind am I in today or this evening? And what do I need? How do I want to end? Is it, more do I feel I haven't been that time efficient? Maybe I should go back to one of my time management book and read about that. So it's always with personal development, but depending on what I feel that I need at the moment, I choose after that. So that can be, going from book to book, chapter to chapter, depending on what I think that I need.
So you're designing your material based on how you perceive that day.
Yes, day or week. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That's brilliant. Speaking of which, could you name three books or three? I'd like you to name three books or two books, and perhaps maybe if you can't remember it right now, I can link in the description. But if you can also recommend one video on YouTube that people need to see, so two books and one video on YouTube on motivation.
Well, the video on YouTube that I actually sent it to you the other day, Mark, and this is the Darren Hardy one, and highly effective people, and what separates successful people from unsuccessful people, which is to be laser focused. And in order to be world class at something, you need to be focusing on one thing, because you rather be world class at one thing than mediocre at 10 things. I think this video is very on point if you want to do something good and be successful. So you can have the link for that. In terms of books, right now I'm rereading 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, but also How to Win and Influence People are those two books are books you must read in order to know the psychology of how things works.
Yeah, I think if you can master those two books, I honestly don't think you need much more, because if you can master those, then you can also master the art of leadership. And if you can master the art of leadership, you don't even actually need any specialized knowledge, because then you can just manage people that have the knowledge. So it's so cool.
I agree.
Yeah, so I'll definitely include the link to that video in the description down below. I would also like to ask you, what is your main focus this week right now? I'm not talking your yearly goal. I'm talking your focus right at the moment. What are you focusing most on?
Well, right now we're in the event business. We have something called the Empowered Women event, which is one of the events of this year. And it's a big event that we have on the 3rd of September in Stockholm, where we're having women from all over the world, very successful women in business and in their lives, coming to us for the Swedish Wealth Institute on stage to speak about tools, speak about mindset, give us some tips. They're going to be having their coaching sessions there if you want to have part of that. There's going to be a lot of networking from people all over Sweden. I think even people from outside of Sweden coming there. We're going to be there. So right now my main focus is to bring as much value as possible for that event to be as good as possible and get as many people there as possible so we can start this wave in Sweden with personal development, with successful people helping each other, encouraging each other, and learning from each other.
Exactly. If I may add, it might not be the most political correct way of saying it, but fuck jantelagen. Is that right?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's what was going through the whole subject of that, like the undertone of that event.
Yeah, I totally saw that or could feel that. So yeah, but I also work very closely or hard on that event as well. So anyone listening, if you're close, I don't even care if you're in Umeå or if you're in Spain, you should be at the Sheraton Hotel on the 3rd of September, because if not the value was enough, the event is actually free for people. We're really trying to start this wave here for the Empowered Women Initiative, and that goes for men and women. I mean, as soon as every time I realize that women and men are getting paid differently for doing the exact same job, I mean, that's just that's so wrong. So I'm proud and I feel happy to be able to contribute to that movement there. And I will also, of course, include the link to the free tickets in the description. But at the time of this recording, it is the 23rd of August. The event is on the 3rd of September, and we only have 40 tickets left. They've gone like crazy. We've already have 280 signups, and the room can only fit about 300. So if you're really serious about getting your personal development going, if you're serious about meeting great people and networking, you need to go over there and get your ticket ASAP, because they're going to run out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. An entire day full with people that have the same mindset doesn't get better than that, right?
I totally agree. And I think we're going to over deliver, but I'm not going to say that because you'll see when you come there. I mean, just the fact that it's free shows what kind of people that's behind this and the heart behind this, because we really want you to come there and see this and feel it for yourself.
Exactly. And of course, there are VIP choices if you want to hang around in the green room with the speakers, if you want extra type of access to the Wealth Academy and so forth. There are VIP solutions and options. But of course, we just want people to connect and to create this wave in Sweden, basically, if that's the right word. Funnily enough, there is a movie called The Wave, which we don't want to be associated with, funnily enough, but that's for another day. So I think actually we touched base on a lot of things here today, and this was a recording that was done quite well. We managed to get some time over when I visited you here in Malmo working, so I didn't have time to get any questions from the listeners, but I think we've caught up on a lot of things you said, and I think that there's a ton of value in this recording. And if there's anything else that you want to say, where people can find you on Instagram, website, whatever, besides that, I think I'm very pleased with the recording today.
Well, so am I, Mark, and I can't wait to see the rest of your podcast. And if any of you have any questions, feel free to add me on Facebook or write to me on Facebook. It's my name. Mark will have a link to that. So I can't wait to hear from you, and I can't wait to see the rest of this podcast. And thank you for having me on, Mark.
Thank you so much, Adele. And for everybody, please remember to go follow Adele on Instagram. She posts pictures when she's traveling all over the world. Great inspiration and motivation. And of course, she shares some of her insights as well. Thank you so much, Adele. And thank you guys for listening, and see you on the next podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.